So hopefully we got that all sussed out now so we don't have to deal with it all in post-production. Such is the nature of creativity, right? It's messy.
Yes. It's wabi-sabi.
Speaking,
it's the beauty in the imperfection.
Sabi. What is the origin of that term? If we can go into that real quick, since you said that. Wabi-sabi?
It's a Japanese concept that beauty lies in imperfection.
Okay.
Beauty does not lie in being perfect. Yeah. It's a great thing to apply to our marital relationships as well as to our artwork.
and to ourselves as well, because I think that it's easy to put a lot of pressure on yourself to perform a certain way and to always, get it right. And I just don't think that that's possible.
No. Yeah.
Speaking of that,
we can strive to get it right. Not.
Yeah. That's really involved with, that's sort of a great introduction for you, Laurie, because what you do, so I want to talk about unity through creativity and that organization and the projects that you do with that. And then also the origin of the singing tree. I know that there's a lovely story behind that and some book inspiration. But I want to start off by asking you then, so has the driving force of your art always been for social, cultural change?
The driving force of my art started when I was 10 and I wanted to draw trees. And I loved trees. And they spoke to me and I wanted to capture them, and I tried to draw every leaf on the tree and I couldn't do it. And I got frustrated, and nobody told me I could draw the big, simple shape of the tree. And I gave up drawing altogether.
Oh, no.
And as an extreme extrovert, I do not have easy access to my inner experience. And I knew I wanted to teach, and I got certified to teach in college. And I married very young. When I was 20, to somebody who was 8 years older than me. And he had the belief that everyone is an artist. And our marriage broke up when I was 23, and it was really devastating for me. And I had begun to draw, and all this information about my inner experience would come out in my drawing. And it was a way for me to see, wow, I'm terrified, I'm broken, I'm sad, and no matter what I was thinking, my hand knew how to express this wide range of inner experience. So
wow.
It was very important for my development to start drawing, and I also loved observing. So drawing helped me to observe the world more. And I got a master's degree in art and education. And then I married my love of people and my love of art and the healing quality of art into the work of Unity Through Creativity Foundation.
Wow. So is there like an aha moment where you were like, oh, these two, I can blend them perfectly together? Do you have a moment like that in your story?
That's a great. When I began teaching in 1980, I was the gifted and talented teacher for Rappahannock County schools, K through 12. And I paid attention to everybody's gifts. And we had academically gifted and athletically gifted and mechanically gifted. I lobbied for those, as well as visually gifted. And I think the very first collaborative painting that I did was called The Web of Life with 7th graders at the elementary school. And we combined science and ancestors and painting And that was an amazing experience. And it was in conjunction with Sharon Wyrick, who is a dancer who had an artist in residency. And we took these murals to a prison, and the inmates wrote about what they experienced seeing the mural and brought that back and used it, their beautiful words, in a performance piece that Sharon Wyrick did with these murals behind her. And that was kind of the first big marriage of the inner and the outer that I did.
Yeah, and it's fitting that you would say the inner and the outer, because it sounds like you had, well, I know that this is some time apart from that, but that's exactly what brought you back to art, is marrying that inner and outer dialogue between yourself. Like you were saying, you're, which I love the term, you're an extreme extrovert. I don't know if I never heard that before. Tell me a little bit more about that experience, being an extreme extrovert.
I just love being with people. I love meeting people. I love knowing people. I'm endlessly fascinated by all levels of development, from infant to deathbed. I'm nourished by being with human beings. I'm that kind of mammal that loves to rub shoulders like the cows in the herd with other cows. And yeah, I really enjoy being by myself as well. I've come to a new place, El Paso, Texas, and I'm just like a kid in a candy shop meeting all these new human beings.
And I'm sure that they're thrilled to make that connection with you, because you're such a, I always think of you as a very inspirational individual, and every time. So just a little bit of our background story. You mentored me for several years when I was teaching Waldorf at Hearthstone School. And that was an incredible experience. And I really thank you for that, because you were always welcoming my ideas, but always like questioning how I could, let's see, like not stretch that idea further, but how I could go deeper into the process. And what did that mean for me? And what would that mean for the children that were experiencing the subject that we were teaching? And just the story was so important. And you were always telling me to focus on the story. And so with that being said, what type of stories do you feel like your art focuses on? Or is it not only one story?
It is the story of the future that we want to live in. So I am inviting people now to envision a positive future to their community challenge. And that's what I'm doing with the Singing Tree Project and other projects. So we have to make up the story we want, or we'll never get it. We will be handed the story that is, and that story, if we don't consciously shape it, is a story of suffering and inequality.
Yeah.
Not okay.
That's exactly. That's something that I talked a lot about when I was at the university and studying anthropology, is that why is it that we keep repeating the same stories to us? Well, some of them are positive and some of them are negative, right? Some of them are positive, uplifting tools that you use to heal your society, and some of them are, the same, they're tools that are used to divide us. And so, it is very important to make sure that you're aware of the story, and not just the story we're telling ourselves culturally and societally or as a globe, but as an individual. What kind of stories do we want to be embodying as creators, as artists, as mothers, fathers, all of those things. But I want to know a little bit more about the origin of both projects, because you are Laurie, but you are also the embodiment of the Singing Tree. and or the storyteller, the story, you share those stories of the singing tree and of unity through creativity. So let's start with the singing tree. How did that come into being?
The singing tree came about in 1999. I was an artist in residence at Hillsborough Elementary School in Virginia, and I made a mural with all 130 students, K through 5, in the school. And when it was done, 8-year-old Meredith Miller said, "I wish the whole world could see our painting, and then the whole world would be happy." And then she said, "Wow. What if the whole world made a painting together?" And my longing for human beings to be the collaborative, creative creatures that we are, instead of being diverted by fear and trauma, was like, wow, yes, that's so exciting. I can't figure out how to do that. And I came back to Rappahannock County High School, and somebody, Beth, I can see her, beautiful young Beth, handed me a photograph of a picture of the earth that was divided up into all these little tiny sections. It was a computer breakdown. And I thought, wow, we could make something that has lots of pieces to it. And then somebody handed me Kate Sarady's book, The Singing Tree, in which she describes her father, who was a soldier in World War I, describing how he crawled all night long on his belly with his battalion to escape the Russian soldiers. They were Hungarian, and everything had been destroyed by war, as we are seeing now in Ukraine. Everything was killed, and the buildings were rubble, and the houses were destroyed, and there was no life. And when the dawn came, the soldiers looked up on a hill and they saw one tree that had survived. And in that tree were birds who had come hundreds of miles singing a song that had never been heard before. And they were birds that are not normally together. So the aha moment went that the earth is the singing tree of the galaxy, and we can choose to destroy it and each other, or we can create beauty that's never been seen before. So the idea of creating a series of murals of a tree on the earth in space that the whole world is invited to contribute to the forest. Everyone can express their vision and their voice together. And as of this year, there's 109 murals made by over 21,000 people from 52 countries.
Wow. That is phenomenal. And what is your, so what other countries are you planning on getting involved? Or so where is your goal with that? I mean, I know that it's already come so far, and that's beautiful. And so even just what you have is phenomenal. But do you have like a certain, like, do you want to try and get every single country involved? Is that the goal?
That would be wonderful. Right. Our goal now is the 5x5 project, which is that we do a singing tree in a country for 5 years, one for each year, and that we train facilitators as we are making the singing trees. We've begun this project in Cyprus. We just completed our first singing tree in Cyprus that's on the wall of the UN headquarters there, between the buffer zone between the north and the south of Cyprus, which is divided. And
wow,
we're working on the Changwali singing tree of healing the trauma of war in Uganda, which is in a refugee camp. We're raising funds for that right now. We've completed 2 in England, one with immigrant women and one with elementary school children. We're working with the burn areas of Northern California. We've completed one there. So all these we're looking upon as 5-year programs. And we've applied to the State Department to do the singing tree of celebrating diversity, to help fight terrorism in Mozambique, where the terrorism is caused by people being intolerant of different religions. And
wow.
So our goal is
You're a busy lady.
Yeah, I'm having a blast.
Yeah, it sounds like it. How did it, let's see, how do I put this? I was going to say evolve to that level, but I guess, so it just kind of happens as you go, like you're creating, and you created, Singing Tree, and then it just sort of branches out, right? Like the tree itself, and grows. And as people see how, fantastic and healing and how unifying this idea is, more people want to get involved. I guess talk a little bit more about how this process has grown and reached out. Like, how do you even begin reaching out to another country to work on an art project? And then I want you to talk a little bit more about the 5 years and the training and what that training entails.
We model the Singing Tree on nature.
Okay.
I've been very influenced by the Biomimicry Institute, which was founded by Janine Benyus, and she points out that life makes these conditions conducive to life. And one of those conditions is always an interdependent network. So the network of people who see art as a peace-building tool is growing, and I'm a part of that and supporting that. And the way that we got in touch with the person from Mozambique was the organization in Cyprus, which is called Visual Voices. That's two young creative activists in Cyprus knew this young man in Mozambique, and he saw the work that we did with them, and he reached out. And our facilitators are from India and England and Somalia and the U.S. And this network, I just want to grow like mycelium, all the connectors between the roots of the trees. We also model that nature has very clear goals, but doesn't micromanage. Like all water wants to get to the ocean. But the Mississippi River doesn't do it like the Colorado, and doesn't judge each other as doing poorly. So every Singing Tree has the very concrete goal of a mural that is a tree on the earth and space that addresses a vision for a community challenge. And then the variety and the diversity is limitless, and it's so beautiful, and it is a physical model of what happens when you trust people to collaborate around their own issues. And my thinking has developed around the fact that one of the causes of depression is people not having the skill set of setting a realistic goal. And one of the elements of hope, according to Jane Goodall in her wonderful book about hope, is being able to achieve a goal. So the Singing Tree Project is an example of a community being able to complete a goal. It's really concrete, and they can see it. And the result is that we spark innovative action, and we help with the next goal. So the Singing Tree facilitation training involves a intensive where we create a singing tree together, and we do it virtually. I figured that out. Thank you, COVID. And then each person goes to their community and has 5 months to a year to create a singing tree in their community. And that includes having a lead design team, figuring out a theme, inviting the community to add leaves and birds and butterflies. And somebody just made the singing tree of motherhood. And she had everyone contribute butterflies, and she found out she was pregnant right at the end of the project.
Wow.
Which was beautiful. So we have a celebration, which is multi-art, involves dance and song and poetry and the stories and the symbols and food. And then the lead design team comes up with the next innovative action with community input. So we're partnering with the University of Pittsburgh to understand the impact of this project. And that's a hard thing to put into words, but
so they're going to develop a study.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. That's always helpful for the. I feel like as an artist, it probably doesn't affect you that much, right? I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but it definitely helps for the goal of your project overall. When people see those numbers, those of them, I guess, what is it when you call it your is it right brained when you're when you're mathematically inclined, or is it left brained?
Left brain.
Okay, so those of us who are left brained, they want to see that data. They want to see,
Absolutely.
Okay, this is a cool idea, but how is this actually, taking effect in society? So that will be very helpful and very interesting, I'm sure, to see. I'm almost tempted to say, when will it become the singing forest?
Oh, it is. It is the singing forest now.
Right, because there's so many trees.
Definitely a forest.
That's beautiful.
And I love the fact that the thing that I was passionate about as a 10-year-old is, that I gave up for a while, is the structure that works to manifest this vision. And I just encourage everyone to pay attention to those passions that you come in with.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And that's not always easy to do. And I think that that's probably, like you said, a reachable goal and an achievable goal. And then actually, when you finish that goal and that feeling and that, just the way that you just, I don't know how to put it, I guess, it's sort of like fall in love with your own creativity when that happens, and just embrace yourself, not in some sort of weird, like, overly prideful way, but like in a very healthy way. To feel strong about yourself is so important. And that's not always easy to do, especially, you've been a teacher for many years in a society that pushes certain roles on people. It can often happen if you're from a family of, doctors, they expect you to be a doctor, or, something along those lines. But in your heart, you're like, I really want to go to art school, or I really want to go to music school, or I want to be a teacher, it's hard to follow that. So I would probably argue that that's another root of depression in our society, which is a huge problem right now. We're dealing with so many side effects of our society being full of really downtrodden individuals. So would you say that art is the key to
another important issue, I think? Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was just going to say, is art the key?
I'm sorry, were you done?
You can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, art is so important. Well, creativity is so important because when children are supported to stay in their creativity and curiosity, they have the experience of having an endless abundance of ideas inside them. And so it's an experience of abundance as opposed to scarcity. And that also helps to fight depression and peer pressure and addiction. Just knowing that within you, there's never any end to the ideas, to the possibilities. And having that somewhere in your life is essential.
Yeah, and nurturing that. It's interesting it's an interesting subject to delve into, but so we talk about, or you talked about, the idea with the singing tree of, and creativity that, we're the only planet that we know of right now to fully be able to, support, human life and animal life. And, we can say that, yes, we found elements of, water and different things in other places that could potentially support it. But right now we're the only planet that we know of. So we could either heal or destroy. With that being said, and this will take us into the idea of unity through creativity, I think, because you work a lot with conflict resolution. And that can be tricky. Well, it is tricky. But do you think that it's possible for humans to completely live in peace?
There's a definition of peace being conflict done well. And I love that definition. So I believe we can live in peace. I don't believe or want to have a conflict-free world because conflict's okay. Conflict is when there's more than one point of view. And so how we handle conflict is the skill set that we need to give the youth and the adults. And knowing that we all have feelings, that feelings are in the driver's seat, as Brene Brown would say, and that we make up stories about our feelings, and that we can share the stories we make up about our feelings. That's conflict done well. And building trust is a skill, and that's what the Singing Tree process encourages. And I teach all this stuff because I'm still learning it. I don't do conflict well a bunch of the time. I don't think humans are very skilled at it. I think the work of Brene Brown is really essential to help us get more skilled at it. I think the work of Paul Chappell, who is an Iraq veteran and West Point graduate and could have been a mass shooter when he was in high school from the trauma he suffered, and he sat in high school class and imagined murdering people and thought that was normal. And his English teacher helped him write, and he expressed was able to express his rage on the page and go on to develop a peace literacy curriculum, K through college, that is brilliant at the Peace Literacy Institute. The skill set that we need to cope with the chaos that climate change is bringing to our planet is huge, and I hope to add to that training process in the process of making something beautiful together. And you learn how to begin the project with everybody checking in with their heart, and ending the session with everybody checking in with their heart, and everybody's voice and idea matters. And we practice and share the neurobiology of inclusion and exclusion, and are the same place in our brain that experiences physical pain, experiences exclusion. So we need to be included and listened to and treasured and cared for, and I believe we can do it. And this week is Unity Earth Week is a huge celebration. It's 97 days to International Day of Peace, which is September 21st. There's over 800 actions that people are going to be taking the week of the 19th through the 24th of September to demonstrate that peace is possible. We need to just add to the momentum and make peace big, loud, and beautiful the way that war is big, loud, and ugly.
How have you faced, not only as an individual, but as a professional in this line of work and in this line of creativity, people who are like, the peace is not possible, or they don't believe it's possible, or they're not into it. They're like, a lot of people are saying, I don't want peace, I want justice. How have you faced that outward struggle, but that internal struggle of what, that's, it's a wall put in your face. How do you handle that?
I think about Harriet Tubman, who envisioned every one of the people that she ushered into freedom as already free. She used the power of her visualization to get those people free. And I think the chances that I will see a peaceful world are very small before I die. And yet it's my commitment, and I really don't care what other people think. I mean, it's just my commitment to do everything in my power to treat life as sacred and to listen deeply to different points of view. And yeah.
And that's the story. That's your story that you're choosing to share. You're not choosing to, that's, it comes full circle to where we started our conversation. You're not choosing to share a story of negativity. You're choosing to focus on the light and the positive, which is, I guess it's difficult for all generations of humans, but especially from my generation and afterwards, there's been so much, I grew up with the idea that, at any time in my lifetime, the oceans may be completely empty. Global warming, World War III is right around the corner. Those are, and then, you look at even the very, very young children who are aware enough to have experienced, actually experienced the trauma of COVID and the whole world shutting down and the whole world very frightened and alone, and that weight on an adult's shoulder is heavy, but it's even heavier on a small being's shoulders.
Yes.
So I feel like not only for the purpose of having you bring individuals together, but also for hearing a story, people need to hear that there are creators like you out there and there are teachers like you out there, and hopefully they get to work with you and experience that. Some might call it a distraction, but I think it's just another side of the story being told. How do you feel about that?
I love it. And every singing tree that I've made, singing tree mural and other collaborative murals, because Unity Through Creativity also makes collaborative murals that are not around the singing tree story, but whatever a community would like. I never know what it's going to look like. So I model living in uncertainty, which is what the children are coping with. You have to do. What you have to do. And the excitement and thrill of people seeing their ideas manifested, it's always breathtaking. It's always beautiful, because we have a beautiful inner light and soul. And Rudolf Steiner asked that beautiful question, what story does this child need at this level of development? And that same question is true for the human race. What are the stories that human beings need to hear at this level of our development? And we need to hear the possibility that when you create together in circle, in respect, not in hierarchy, beautiful things happen. They happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely have witnessed that, at least in some form or another, teaching, but also just being a musician and singing together. When you get, playing together, when you get everybody singing in a room together, that's very powerful. Or, for example, someone who I know that you know very well and also adore, who was recently on the show is Lisa Powers, and doing the dances of universal peace, getting everybody dancing and moving together. Any sort of thing that gets everybody positively, on the same page is so important for our healing.
It is.
I had a question, but I totally mom brained it. You go ahead.
That's okay. Yeah, for most of human existence, over 200,000 years, we lived in villages and knew 170 people, maybe 190. And we danced together, and we sang together, and we ate food together, and we shared stories at the end of the day around the fire. And we took care of the children, and we took care of the elders. And that process of singing and dancing and painting and storytelling is deeply wired into us. And with the industrial age and colonization, we now watch people dance and we watch people sing, and we don't do it together.
Right.
And part of what I want to support is to celebrate the village.
Yes, because we really have had a loss of community. That's a very good point. And I think that that's probably why a lot of people feel very alone, because, I mean, essentially, other than their family, unless you can be in a community of creators or be in a community of artists or doctors, teachers, whatever it is, unless you find or build your community, it's not really as accessible as it used to be. Like you said, you were in a village structure, you grew up. I mean, I've heard it so many times before I had children, and now I have, I have a son and then one on the way, but, people are always saying it takes a village. And I didn't really know what that meant until, I became a mother, and I really resonate with that. And especially growing up in Rappahannock, very lucky to experience a very tight-knit, close community with a lot of, creative group projects going on together. So, yes, I think that that's absolutely, we've lost a lot of community in the modern realm. And, tried to substitute, although I think, social media has its positives. I think we've tried to substitute, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of that stuff for actual human communication, right. Which is not a good substitute at all. You have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to hug people. You have to be able to work on projects together. I know what I was going to ask you, which is that, so do you think that humans can actually, so when you do these projects like Singing Tree or Unity Through Creativity, there's like a director of the project, right? There's people who are more in charge, I guess, so to speak, than others. But you talked about at the same time non-hierarchical structures. So how do you, where's the synthesis in that?
The people that are, quote, in charge are facilitators. And that's a very important word. The facilitator makes a safe container. The facilitator takes responsibility for the completion and for the steps and for every voice and vision being heard and for the conversation of, well, we didn't include this, your wonderful idea, in the final design. You can put that beautiful idea on a leaf or a bird, or is there some other way that we can include it? And the facilitator takes responsibility for the underlying harmony of the piece, for the maximizing the cohesion, and for the evaluation. So that is... Sorry
to interrupt you.
Go ahead. No problem.
I was just going to say, so how is that... Can you explain for our viewers, for our listeners, how that is distinctly different from a hierarchical structure? Like, and what type of structure would you call it? Because I'm trying to imagine how you could take the ideas that you're doing and apply them on a, and I'm sure you are too, on a larger level. Like, how could you operate within a society that is non-hierarchical? What would that entail? Because there are people that are more, natural leaders, so to speak, and other people are not as comfortable with that role, and that's not really what they do. So how could you mirror what you're doing in a larger scale?
The beauty about the Singing Tree project is that people can step into roles and step out of them. If you want to be part of the lead design team and put your ideas into effect, that's great. If you want to just cut leaves and chat with your neighbor, cool, because the leaves need to be cut. And yes, we could make them manufactured and use a press and have thousands and thousands of them. Maybe that'll happen someday. I don't know. And I love the process of using your hands and cutting and chatting. The word human means divine hand. And when you use your hands, it adds humanity and divinity to the world. And in this high-tech time, we need high touch, like you were talking about with TikTok and Facebook and Instagram is incredible that I can stay connected to my students around the world. And I need to cut the frickin' leaves, with my hand.
Need something tactile as well.
Yes,
right?
yes.
It can't all be just up here and scrolling and clicking and
yes.
It needs to actually be physical.
The Singing Tree Project is a leadership training project, and being trained as a facilitator is a leadership practice. And we need non-hierarchical leadership on this planet. We have an imbalance of the yang energy that is unity through force. We need more of the yin energy, which is unity through creativity, and not somebody forcing someone else.
Can you give me an example of what, something very, it doesn't have to be, necessarily something you experience, although I'm sure you have plenty of them, but an example of a way that you've seen that embodied, or that you've embodied that as a teacher, or as, give us an example of what unity through, what did you say, inclusion versus unity through force, or unity through creativity versus unity through force?
Well, okay. We just made a singing tree about Ukraine, called the Ukrainian Singing Tree of Strength and Freedom. And we often ask people, what's breaking your heart? And let's make an image to heal that heartbreak. And Ukraine is breaking my heart. So I began with an initial image of the viburnum tree, which is Ukraine's national tree, and the nightingale, which is Ukraine's national bird. And I brought it to 4 students at University of Texas in El Paso's painting department. They added to the design. So each one of their ideas was incorporated into the design. And then we painted it. And as we painted it, new ideas came up. Then I took it to the University of Berkeley's TED Talk. And we invited people who were attending the TED Talk to add to this, to send their love to the people of Ukraine. And we had people saying, you're being against Russia by this mural. And we talked about, we're sending love to Ukraine. We send love to Russia as well. The people in Ukraine are being displaced and bombed. We then added the leaves, and so the every singing tree grows organically, just like the Singing Tree Project does. I just made a singing tree with about 30 youth at the Bioneers Conference in San Francisco. These young people were from groups from around the country. They were Native kids, Black kids, white kids, Asian kids. They'd never met each other before. They all gave ideas in an hour workshop. Then we put all their ideas together, and they came back and they painted. It didn't matter if they'd had any experience. They just loved touching color and board and paint. And we made the magical window singing tree. This is all, you can go to unitythroughcreativity.org and go to the gallery, and there's all the singing trees from all the years. And you can see there's videos of the process of making, and you see the joy. And joy is the thing that gives us resilience to face tragedy. And when you collaborate together, when you have the village, when you sing and dance together, you have joy. And we need this in order to face the tragedies that are here and that are coming. And the kids need this. And the kids need to know that their ideas are powerful. And I'm beginning to feel that every school should be looked at as a think tank to address community challenges, that the kids need to be consulted about the water issues, the soil issues, the immigration issues. They are fresh hope and vision, and we're wasting their time and our challenges by not consulting them, by not treating them all like graduate students. And I think every children's museum should be a think tank. Every school should be a think tank, because we are in hard times.
Yeah. That's a very good idea. What is the distinct difference between the Singing Tree organization and the Unity Through Creativity organization? Why have two?
That's a great question. Unity Through Creativity is the 501c3 nonprofit that also supports different projects. So we've done inner landscapes, which are wooden cutouts of young people, then where they paint their joy and what makes them feel useful and their favorite animal and their plant, and they write poetry, and we've made books based on their poetry and paintings. We've done reading garden murals where the whole school is invited to share what their favorite books are, and we make characters and painted just book butterflies and book plants and Harry Potter casting magic spells, and and we serve artists who may want to do a non-singing tree project. So it's more wide open in terms of the project goal than it's simply let's get together and do community art type of, yes, right.
Versus the singing tree in that specific structure that you're doing artistically. Okay. Excellent. What kind of stuff do you have coming up on the horizon? I know that you're trying to get many more people involved in the singing project, and that's naturally happening, and that energy is harmonizing, and you just put that magnetism out there and people pick up on it, and it just feeds and grows that singing forest. But tell me some of the projects. I know you mentioned a little bit about it, but that you have coming up on the horizon.
We very much want to get $10,000 to fund Emma Kavuma and Canisius Nenmasaba to do the Singing Tree project in the Changwali refugee camp. And we have a beautiful video about that on our website. We look upon the people in Changwali as our teachers because they have been living in displaced.
Sorry.
We look upon the people at Changwali as our teachers because they are living as displaced people, and the world right now has 81 million displaced people, and it's predicted there's going to be 120 million. By the UN in the next 20 years. So these are our teachers. We want to give a space for them to express their vision and wisdom. And we're applying for a grant, a $500,000 grant to train facilitators throughout the United States who are addressing various community issues. So a big grant writing ahead of us, and we are also moving forward with the Cyprus community, and we're looking to find funding so we can pay people to get trained, because it's hard. It's hard to take time out to be trained, and so we haven't accomplished that goal yet. But that's we're looking for the funding.
Yes, absolutely. And I very much hope that you manifest that comes in. And I believe that it will, because I think that people will realize that at the root of a lot of our societal problems, it comes down to, again, what we were talking about, the community, the unity through creativity, instead of trying to put a Band-Aid or fix these problems fix, quote unquote, in, retroactively, it's like we need to try and create a lifestyle that can engender change before, it becomes a problem. Like we want it to be healthy to start with. It's sort of like the very holistic medicine, homeopathic medicine and herbalism and things like that. It's like you don't take it after you're already really sick. Yes, there are tinctures and supplements and things you can do once you are sick to try and boost up your immunity, but you want to try and be eating healthy and developing a healthy lifestyle throughout. So you can try and avoid some of those things down the road, although, life does happen. But I feel like we have forgotten that with mental health. It's like we're like, we'll just sort of put it on the back burner and then, okay, if we have problems, we'll deal with it then. And it's like, then it's almost too late in a lot of cases. So I hope that, that's why we go ahead.
That's why we focus on peace building. And here I am in Texas, and Uvalde murder happened not so far from me. And there's response to not only do some looking at gun control, but also supporting mental health. And every art department in every public school and private school in the country, I wish would understand that they are the holders of mental health, because there is the place for the children to express what's going on and to get feedback and support. And I'm also working on a big celebration of the International Day of Peace here in El Paso at the Keystone Heritage Park, which celebrates native plants. We have to be at peace with Mother Earth. We have to bring all different communities together. I'm going to be inviting the military to come and speak at the International Day of Peace, because they think about peace in ways that are very important. And we are inviting the holistic health community, the permaculture community, the interfaith community to come. And we want to have essay contests for elementary, middle, and high school kids to share their ideas about how do we build peace. Because if the kids think that peace is not possible, we are really in trouble. And they want peace. They want everyone to be cared for and have enough food and not be homeless. And the children have the compassion, the collaboration, and the creativity that the adult world needs. And that's what we're focusing on.
They have the resilience as well. I mean, when kids have, I'm going through it right now with my toddler. When kids have their meltdowns, their breakdowns and get, really frustrated and very upset. And, part of that is a language barrier at this time, right? At the age I'm dealing with my son, but they don't hold on to it, and that's something that I'm constantly, reminding him through the process. I'm like, it's okay. Big feelings, big emotions, like it happens. We don't have to stay there. Just like we don't have to stay in this room. We can move out. We can move into a different place mentally, just like we can move into a different place physically. And just because, you had a big tantrum and you threw some monster trucks around doesn't mean that you have to stay angry about it. I'm not going to stay angry about it. It doesn't have to. And I feel like as you get older, adults really get the world can harden you and really, make you very bitter. And I feel like you see that so much with our society. And children are such a great reminder that you can get upset with somebody, you can disagree with somebody, and then get over it. That's something our society's also struggling with heavily right now. There's so many different polarizing things that people are like, you're a terrible person if you think this, I will not be friends with a lifelong friend if you disagree with me on this social, justice issue, which is very frightening. People are not talking to family members because they, did or didn't do something that we feel like we're drawing these lines in the sand. So how do you feel like the creativity can help eliminate that polarizing, do you think humans are just headed for that polarizing thing, or how do you feel about that subject?
Remember when I was talking about the 170 to 190 people that we knew in a tribe for hundreds of thousands of years? So it's very deep and natural for people to have stranger danger and difference danger. We have that very hardwired in us. And we also have curiosity hardwired in us. So feeding curiosity, which is what creativity does. You can't be creative and not be curious. Like, okay, what's going to happen when I do this? When I make this mark, right? Curiosity and creativity are interlinked. So by inviting people to create together, it changes the dynamic. And, by saying, you're welcome to come create, you're welcome to come create. And it's having that concrete goal. I'm reminded of the story of a Palestinian and Israeli negotiation that had been stalled for 2 years, and somebody's truck broke down, and they all went outside and they fixed the truck. And when they came back in, they could make progress for the first time. So having that common experience where you see that you can work together gives some hope. It's not going to be easy. Yeah. The polarization is terrifying. The people that believe that their story is the only story, and therefore they can justify violence, like in January 9th or 6th, and like Putin, it's terrifying. And I'm very humble. All I know is that I'm going to keep inviting the whole world to create together.
Thank you so much, Laurie. I really appreciate your time today. I hope so much that your dream continues to manifest in this realm and becomes a reality, because it's coming. The singing forest is here, and it'll continue to grow and spread and continue to heal and create. So thank you so
Kaya.
much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for bringing me to Rappahannock, my beloved.